What fan theories have blown your mind with their devastating logic? I read a theory about Courage the Cowardly Dog that said that Courage is actually a normal dog and he sees the world through a dog's eyes. All the villains in the show are just normal people. But to a little dog they seem scary. They don't actually live in the middle of nowhere. But since his owners are too old to take him outside for walks, he only knows what's around his immediate property. And everything beyond that is nothing because he's never seen it. Reading about Rugrats made me think of that episode where they think the world will end. They make a shelter and plan to survive. Except there's only enough room for not 5. So they have to pick between Tommy, Chucky, Angelica, Phil and Lil. They actually make a logical choice for repopulating the earth. You would take both girls. Chucky has different family from either girl, so he's accepted. The choice would be between Tommy and Phil. Phil has redundant DNA with Lil. Tommy, the cousin of Angelica, still brings more diversity. Leaving Phil out was the logical choice. If they truly had to. It's not broken down this way in the show. But they still reach the same result. The story of Aladdin is made up by the salesman at the beginning to persuade you to buy the lamp. Doctor Who. The Doctor's name is a word of power. Something that was introduced to the series in Moffat's Series 3 episode The Shakespeare Code. What does the Doctor's name do? It unlocks the Time War. This is the reason he trusts no one but himself to know his own name. During the ending of Forest of the Dead, the 10th Doctor also states to River that there could be only one way she could have known his name. This is also the reason why the Silents are terrified of the Doctor's name. And why not? It would release the Daleks and the Time Lord from the Lock Time War. It's speculated that this is the premise of the 50th anniversary episode. A bit late for this. But Willy Wonka knew those children would die in his factory. After Augustus gets sucked up the chute, they all hop on board the boat through the Tunnel of Doom. The boat doesn't have 2 extra vacant seats though. It was designed with prior knowledge that they would lose 2 participants before that point. Later they drive a cream-spewing car with only 4 seats. Did they have another car waiting in the garage in case the others made it? Of course not. Willy Wonka uses children to make candy. I like the idea that at the end of The Thing, 1982, when Kurt Russell offers Keith David the bottle and he drinks out of it. The bottle is filled with gasoline. One from the Molotovs he was throwing earlier. Since the creature wouldn't understand what gasoline tastes like, it wouldn't spit it out. The original Scooby-Doo series is set after a horrible economic depression. Everything is abandoned and falling apart. All of the villains are people who would normally be really respected. Professors, museum curators, celebrities, who have fallen into hard times just like everyone else. How many times have the gang helped someone not go out of business? In the Haunted Mansion at Disney World Disneyland, you commit suicide during the course of the ride and become a ghost. At the beginning of the ride, the ghost host, the narrator, says the only way to escape the mansion is to die. And he shows that he hanged himself. Near the end of the ride there's a moment where the ride vehicle turns around backwards and you go off a balcony. Which according to this theory represents you jumping to your death. Before this part of the ride the ghosts are all trying to scare you. But afterwards they sing excitedly and invite you to party with them. The Grim Grinning Ghost song, the only human character in the ride, a groundskeeper, appears after the balcony drop. He faces toward the riders and seems terrified of you. Could be totally accidental. Could be an intentional subtlety by the designers. But either way I've never looked at that ride the same way since. Edit. Forgot a pretty important word. Thanks Bakupusa name. Samurai Jack takes place in post-apocalyptic Townsville. Powerpuff Girls. Edit. Damn phone. This one is my theory. That 70s show is a vague sequel to Happy Days. At the end of Happy Days, Richie and Rafe go off to the Korean War, or at least they are training for it. Fonzie stays behind. At this point you must remember that the Fonz was always the person who kept Richie cool. Flash forward 20 years. Richie, Red, has become bitter after the war. And without the catalyst that was Arthur Fonzarelli. His friendship with full neighbor Bob Rafe has fallen apart. Happy Days was made in the 70s and set in the 50s. That 70s show was in the 90s and set in the 70s. BTW, I know this is completely not true, but I like it anyway.